Hello and welcome to Dynasty Junkies episode 132. This is your man Scott Sidlow on the mic tonight. I've got Andrew Hall with me. We are proud members of the DAP network. And listen, we're just going to keep this series rolling. We're just going to get right into this stuff. We don't have any crazy news stuff tonight. We'll talk a little bit about that. But we're going to be talking AFC East tonight, continuing our division series. We'll have an FMAT as always for you later. And I'm going to go right over to our guest tonight. I'm very excited to have the Andrew Metcalfe on tonight at @DrewMet_FF. Andrew, what's going on, brother? Tell us where the people can find you. Give them all that good info.
So, guys, appreciate y'all having me on. It'd be nice to kind of hide out from Twitter for an hour to avoid the Ant-Man spoilers.
Yeah.
But no, you can find me at @DrewMet_FF. I do a little bit of Dynasty writing for Club Fantasy FFL, but for the most part, you just kind of find me talking stuff on Twitter about guys I like, guys I hate, and what type of pizza toppings I like and all that good stuff.
Ooh, just pineapple, right?
I like pineapple on pizza, but only with ham. Only with Canadian bacon. It's got to be the Hawaiian style, not with like any pizza.
Completely illegal here in Chicago, so it's not allowed. We just can't do it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I
should have brought a pizza
in Dallas.
But, yeah, I don't know, if I would have known you were in Chicago, I probably would have avoided the pizza talk.
Nah, that's all right. I don't even like deep dish, so I'm probably gonna get murdered in my sleep tonight for saying that. But
a lot of people, a lot of people say that from Chicago. Is it more of a touristy thing, huh?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm not into it at all. But Andrew Hall, how about you, brother? What do you think about deep dish pizza?
I like deep dish pizza because I like lasagna. It's pretty much the same basic thing to me, right? It's just like it's an Italian dish. Yeah. It's served in a big pan and you eat it with a fork. It's kind of what it is. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to eat deep dish with your hands, which is why I like some of the thin crust Chicago, though. Like that's where it's at. Like that really eggy crust. That's the good stuff. And like even like Lou Malnati's, all those famous like Gino's East, all those deep dish places all have a thin crust. And it's not bad. I'll be honest, it's not bad. So I always say to people, it's fun to try it as a tourist, you're right. But as a person who lived in Chicago for 8 years, no way you could survive on that. I like the pan pizza, like the thicker crust, but not the deep dish. That's where I draw the line. It's too much.
That's fair. When you need a break from Skyline chili, then I get it.
Never need a break from Skyline, my friend. It's too delicious.
Well, I wish I was down there in Texas. I know one of our big conventions actually is down there in the fall. We have our spring one going on for all of us realtors. And I'm always jealous when I can't go because the only thing I do is eat barbecue. I never actually show up to anything. I literally just go to like 4 barbecue places and just spend the day. But
you gotta find some taco spots too. Barbecue with tacos. Alternated.
There we go.
Nice.
See, we got the food on lock. So now that we got that covered, we can go ahead and get to the football here. So, listen, it's the official start of the non-point scoring season. There is no off season in Dynasty. This is my favorite time of year. This is Madden. You just finished the season. You just won the Super Bowl. Now we're getting to all the fun stuff, the front office. The combine, the free agency, the trades, all the good stuff we got going on. This is my favorite time of year. I mean, this is what got me into Dynasty football. So I'm excited for that. We're gonna kind of cover a few different things here and there as we go through our main topic. But Andrew, I just wanted to I guess I should specify Andrew Hall.
Yes.
I wanna
I'll be Hall. That's fine.
Or you can call me Drew if you want to.
Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Andrew and Drew, we got it.
All right.
So Andrew,
now I got to remember that.
Yeah. Have you heard from Rocky since the Super Bowl loss? Have you heard from him at all?
Not much. It's been pretty quiet. Yeah, I've been really trying hard not to poke that bear. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Boy.
Okay. Yeah. So Drew, our other co-host Rocky is in the Philly area, big Eagles fan. Was talking trash for weeks about how they were guaranteed to win the Super Bowl and all that. No, I'm just kidding. He wasn't. But But no, it was a good game. It was a good game, and I mean, it's all good. But I just want to make sure the people know Rocky's still alive. He's doing well, you know, and he'll be back on here at some point.
Well, just for real quick, I know this kind of came up when you guys were talking with Matt Price about scheduling, how Rocky hasn't been on in a while, and then he's not on again for what that was planned. This is not like Rocky taking a hiatus. It was kind of funny because when the Bengals lost, I was like, well, I got nothing else to do now. And I was like, I kind of like having Rocky have some time away so he can focus on his team. So it worked out oddly enough that he got to have some time off, and he'll be back in a couple of weeks, I think, right? It's still you and me next week. So it'll be 2 more weeks till Rocky gets to come and vent about the terrible field and all the calls and all that. But you can hear him on Trade Addicts, and I'm sure he'll be on DGN and all this other stuff. But they'll come home to complain here, I'm sure, before we do it.
Yeah, everybody check on your Eagles fans.
That's right. Well, and Eagles fans can get rowdy. So
yeah, regardless, we don't know whether they won or lost based on their reaction. So we don't know.
They're greasing the lamppost either way.
That's right.
I think the last thing we have to say about that is 3 podcast hosts, 3 different fan bases. I mean, the Bengals in the Super Bowl, the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I mean, that just leaves one team, and it's definitely not the Chicago Bears. So it's pretty much any other team, will be representing the NFC next year. So I think we can rule that out. But I am loving all the memes on the script for next season and the odds and people like taking it so seriously, and it's like, guys, let's figure this out here, okay? It's
people are just hungry for a conspiracy.
Not real. Yeah, exactly.
You just eat it up.
Exactly. Well, speaking of teams that are unlikely to make the Super Bowl next year, we've got the AFC East division tonight. And I mean, listen, I think you could make an argument for the Bills, but they're going to have a little bit of turnover here. So, we'll see what happens. But that's the team we're starting with tonight. We're going to go right in order of division finish. So starting with the Buffalo Bills, what I did is list the returning players in order of their salary cap hit, which is kind of interesting, just to kind of think about it from that aspect. Just to kind of, not this team, but some of the later teams, we'll kind of see some that we kind of feel might be obvious overvalued or undervalued players, right? Just based on real life NFL. So the Bills returning players, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, those are 2 of the highest paid players on the team, obviously. And then there's a big drop off offensively. It's, Dawson Knox, Nyheim Hines, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, James Cook, Khalil Shakir. So there's a lot of young guys and even, guys finishing out their rookie deals that are very, very cheap. The only notable free agent is Devin Singletary. They could bring him back on a cheap deal, but I would expect them to move on most likely. I mean, they don't seem to like him there anyway, so I don't know why they'd re-sign him. But I guess that's just my opinion on that. Maybe just because I don't like him, so I don't know that that's really fair. But I'm going to go ahead and jump right into my buy for the Buffalo Bills, because this is kind of a hard list to look at and go, I think there's not necessarily an obvious player.
I was thinking the same thing.
The toughest team for me of all the teams we've done to come up with a buy, sell, hold, just based on, looking at their values, their startup ADP, just looking at DLF startup ADP. So I just picked the guy that was not only the cheapest here on the list and the second year guy, but that's Khalil Shakir. He's wide receiver 58. He basically cost nothing, but we did see him come on kind of at the end of the year, and maybe he can parlay that into a little bit of something next season. Not real exciting. Not a whole lot I have for you guys there, but just based on, Josh Allen is at the top, Stephon Diggs right near the top. And then there's just really nobody else at their position group that makes a lot of sense. So I'm just going to go with Shakir there. Drew, let's jump to you. Let's get your thoughts on Shakir, and then you can talk about your buy for Buffalo Bills.
As far as Shakir, I probably feel about the same way you do. If he's a throw-in for maybe a trade that you can't quite get there on either side, maybe, but I'm probably not going to be going out of my way to get him. Buffalo, they seem like one of the prime candidates to land one of these older wide receivers that are trade candidates. So maybe like Hopkins or even one of those like surprise candidates like Terry McLaurin or Deontay Johnson. I've seen that name thrown around. I think they really are gonna like do what they can to get a legit threat across from Stephon Diggs, because Gabe Davis just isn't really cutting it. I know it might be a different conversation in fantasy land, but as far as the team and offensively, I think so. Yeah, again, Khalil Shakir, if you want to throw something in, maybe. I kind of feel the same as you do as far as like legit bias. There may be some windows where people are kind of get fatigued from him, I guess. I know Josh Allen kind of fell off when he had the elbow issue towards the end of the year, but I doubt you're going to get him at a legit discount. So probably just more like strongholds for me, especially Diggs, because people like to kind of automatically sell receivers once they hit that age, 29, 30 mark. But he seems like one of those guys. I think he's going to age well. He's not like an overly, athletic receiver like Julio Jones, for example, that relies on speed and all of that. So I think we can get another 2 or 3 elite years out of him. So yeah, he's another one that's a hold for me, and pretty much everybody else on this list I'm fine with selling for what I can get.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in here, and I think you guys are right on the same path as all of us. I think I'm with you kind of, Scott. This is a tough one. I don't know if it's the toughest, but it's a tough one to kind of find values, I guess, because everybody knows who they are. Yeah. Mine was James Cook, though, as my buy. I just feel like he's still a second-year running back. They're letting go of Devin Singletary. All signs point to him leaving the team. I don't think they bother re-signing him. I don't think they really have anyone else. I mean, Nyheim Hines is an okay returner, but he's not an every down back. I think Cook did okay in limited use this year. And again, as a running back, I don't mind buying a running back this time of year if it's a young, under the radar kind of running back. And right now, James Cook is RB26 in DLF ADP. That's not an expensive running back, but that could easily be a starter next year. And that could be something that's worth it. Just again, looking at the names here around him, he's right between AJ Dillon and Ezekiel Elliott. Isaiah Pacheco's right after that. Like, that's exactly where I think he belongs. And I'd probably rather have him over Ezekiel Elliott at this point. I think Pacheco's the one I might have over just because he looked really good in the Super Bowl. I think you can get a lot for him. But I just feel like Cook is probably the one guy on this team that, in my opinion, is going up in a significant amount, whereas everybody else is already up. They're already where they belong. And I think Cook is the one that, in my opinion anyway, has the biggest delta. And that's what I'm looking for to buy, is where can I buy low and see an increase? I don't mind Khalil Shakir. I just don't know how much of an upside he's really got on that offense. It just, I don't know. There's a lot of low guys that aren't going to be high guys in a year. Welcome to the Bills,
Let me ask you this, though, about James Cook. What do you think the chances are that he's like a legit lead running back? Just because based on his college usage, he was never like a guy that got a large amount of carries.
I don't think he'll be the lead.
Bills don't throw a lot to their running backs.
No, and I think that with Nyheim, I think Naheem's going to stay there too. I think that he actually played perfectly in that offense. So I think that's the 1-2 that they're going to go with. I mean, there have been some mock drafts I've seen where they take Bijan in the first or something, or they go and trade for someone. Like they go kind of nuts in the draft. I don't know if this team really does that. I think they have enough needs on defense and some other needs on the offensive line.
Should put that in wide receiver versus running back.
Well, and that's a point too. Like they could probably use another receiver. I don't think McKenzie's the answer for the 3 if you count Gabe Davis as the 2, and then is Shakir the 3. I mean, it's just getting messy. They have a lot of interesting holes. I don't know if they take a big running back, but I'm fine with James Cook being a part-time guy. I don't think he's going to be a top 12 running back in Dynasty or anything. Sure. I'm not asking for that kind of rise. I'm just saying if you're RB26 and you can get me RB18 output for a couple years, I'm fine with that. Right. Give me an RB2 that I can slot in sometimes on a flex for bye weeks as my 3rd or 4th running back on my team. I'm happy with that. I would trust him more than Khalil Shakir, even though Shakir may have a bigger upside. I like the floor of James Cook. If Singletary's not there and they don't get anyone else, that's a big caveat. Obviously, we're talking February right now. We don't know what they're going to do in free agency and draft, but as of right now, I like James Cook.
He has a draft capital too. I wish they threw to the running backs a little bit more. That's the only thing. But again, I mean, he can rely on that efficiency. I think he was like one of the best backs as far as breakaway runs.
Over 5 yards per carry, I think, but he only had like 85 carries. Like it was a very low sample size, but that's okay.
No, he's the most interesting piece for sure, though. I agree with you.
Yeah, that was the name I was gonna initially start with, but when I saw he was at RB26, and then just figuring the guys that probably roster him at this point, the teams that they're probably going to stick with, like, what are you going to buy him for? I mean, you're probably going to have to give up a late first. So I'm not willing to do that. especially for a running back, considering I'm just basically trying to sell every running back on every roster I
it's
have for the next 6 months.
Dude.
So
yeah, running back.
especially this year. Oh God, especially this year.
Well, that's a great point, and definitely something we want to mention. I'm not saying buy at any cost, right?
Of course.
Right?
Well, and your point is well taken. I definitely see him as an RB2, and so if he's right now a 26, and if he lives at 16 to 18, then it's a value gain for you. So no, I'm with you overall.
Yeah, if I had to buy one player on this page, it'd be Cook.
Well, and it's like whoever has Cook has probably had Cook since they drafted him. There's some sunk cost value in there.
Guy,
They're waiting. Yeah, so like that could make the price not worth buying. So yeah, that's an entirely fair point.
I just want to mention Stephon Diggs because I tried to. So this is where I learned my lesson. A couple of years ago, he got traded to the Bills, and I thought, "Ooh, I don't know about Josh Allen. He's not so good."
Hey, I was with you. I was with you too.
I was like, I love Stephon Diggs, and I think this is great for Josh Allen. He could take that next step, but I think he'll be inconsistent. I could buy him next year at maybe a discount, and obviously that couldn't have been more wrong. So over the last well, I guess just at the end of this season, on any of my competing teams, I was trying to buy Diggs. And I mean, his price is still just through the roof. So I think, Drew, like you mentioned earlier, just the type of player that he is, the route runner. I agree that I don't think he's a cliff type player, right? Like he's going to have, maybe a slow and steady drop, if any. Right. So, he's my hold because I just don't think you can buy him, and I'm also just not going to sell him on any of my contenders. I even have a team I'm like retooling, and everyone's like, "Why aren't you selling Diggs?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'll just hold him. He'll still be on my team when I'm competing." So
in the offseason, this is the worst time of year to sell like those older guys. Like the best case scenario I can see is maybe like if you're in towards the end of the first round, and you like if you have a late first and you're a contender, and somebody like their guy fell to them, in the late first, they might be willing to give up somebody like Diggs, and you can kind of do one of those, on the clock deals. But other than that, it's probably gonna, even if you're in a rebuild, it's probably gonna have to be like in season if you want to get full value for him.
Totally agree.
Real quick before we move on, the only other one I really wanted to mention was Josh Allen. You kind of said it before, but like he's the overall 101 in Superflex right now. And what do we usually say? If you're at 101, time to sell, right? You're not going to have a lot getting higher than that.
That's
Maybe
true.
It's time to get out. There are definitely people out there that would be willing to give up a lot for Josh Allen, even though they finished the year kind of wonky and didn't really dominate. There are definitely people out there that are, listen, if I can send Josh Allen and get Pat Mahomes plus, I'm doing that in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
If I can send Josh Allen and get Herbert and another quarterback, I'm doing that in a heartbeat, right?
What about Burrow?
I think that's definitely Burrow. Come on. You kidding me? Of course, Burrow. This guy loves Burrow. No, but I'm pointing at my wall for those listening. I got Bengals gear everywhere. No, the thing is, and Burrow calendar over here. You can't see it. But so here's the fun part, right? Josh Allen could
naked
still
Burrow
be
pictures
better.
that you're looking at. We get it. Okay, I get it.
God, it's covered. Josh Allen could still get better, but I am one of those people that tends to trade so often on value. I don't see his value really getting a lot higher between now and August. I don't think it's going to go down much either. So it's not like you have to sell. I'm not saying like sell before the floor craters. I'm just saying if you could pivot to 2 ascending assets, I'm happy to do that with him. Not that I hate Allen. I hate 101. Anybody at the top, like when John Taylor was at the top, I'm like, maybe we should sell. It wasn't the worst call then, and it may not be the next. I mean,
always with running backs.
Especially with running backs. But I mean, running quarterbacks, you have the same kind of injury concerns. True. Wasn't it a year ago? Lamar Jackson was like the 101. Everybody was
he was untouchable. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, especially running guys. I don't want to, it's not quite that. You can't quite connect those dots, but it sure feels like it. And
would you trade Josh Allen for Lamar and Tua?
I would, yeah. I think I'd be okay with that. Because again, especially in Superflex, if I can get 2 top 10 or top 12 quarterbacks for Allen, I'm doing that, right? I feel like that helps your team so much more. You don't have that quarterback deficiency. Now, again, if your 2 quarterbacks are Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes, right? Maybe I'm keeping Allen in that trade just to be like, I'm going to dominate with 1 and 2, right? So it's a little bit roster dependent. But generally speaking, I want the value, and Allen is at the top of his value, and maybe it's time to get out. I'm not panic selling, but I'm interested. I'm looking.
Yeah, it's worth seeing what you can get.
Right.
Speaking of lefty quarterbacks, we can move on to the Dolphins here and returning players. Again, by by ranking of essentially salary or cap hit. Tyreek Hill, Tua, Cedric Wilson actually makes more money than Jalen Waddle right now, which is incredible. But that's the rookie. That's the rookie deal, right? So that's fun. And then pretty much no one else. All of the running backs are free agents. All of them. Any name that you saw played running back at all for Miami last year is gone. I mean, they could be re-signed, but they're free agents. Yeah. Mike Gesicki also, hopefully they just let him go. I have no idea why they franchise tagged him and then didn't use him. Like, that made no sense, but hopefully let's go somewhere else, Gesicki. And then, of course, my thoughts are that if, Jimmy G doesn't find the ideal spot somewhere to be a starter, that he would go to Miami, just knowing that he could possibly play behind Tua. He already knows the offense, things like that. So I think they're definitely moving on from Teddy Glasswater because the guy just can't stay healthy. I mean, he had a hurt finger and couldn't play, and Mahomes is out there on one leg playing in the playoffs. So I don't know what you're supposed to do with this guy. So
you got to feel for him too, man. It just seems like every time he gets his opportunity, he gets like concussion or just something happens to him.
Let's get him in the booth or something. Let's just do something different with him. But let's get him off the field. He's an awesome dude. If you've ever heard him talk,
he's very intelligent.
Yeah,
Teddy
love it. I love
him. A line of gloves.
He knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. See, we got you, Teddy. Let's go. We'll represent you right here.
We can manage that.
Here's your agency. Let's go.
He's a kid.
All right. So, I'm going to start off with a little bit of a loophole here because I just talked about Mike Gesicki being a free agent, but he's my buy. He's tight end 24.
Me too.
Yep. I'm hoping. I think there's going to be a little bit of a trend now because we saw like Evan Ingram do it last year, but he was really in the perfect situation. So I don't know that we're going to find that necessarily again, but I just think if you sign a guy like Gesicki, you probably have a plan for him because he is what he is. He's not like you can plug him into any system. Like he's pretty much going to be a big slot, or kind of that second tight end who's more, running routes. So to me, I'm just going Gesicki based on these guys. And we kind of have a lot of similar, with the Bills, right? With Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, these guys are kind of at the top where they are right now. So it's not that I wouldn't buy them, but based on their cost, I'd rather take a shot, especially in all the tight end premium leagues that we're playing in these days. Let's try to find the next guy that can pop up to tight end 8 or whatever, right? And Gesicki no one would be shocked if he was tight end 8 next year, right? So
tight end is such a wasteland too. Like if you can hit on one of those later guys, that's a good. And just to kind of piggyback for a second, I mean, Gesicki tight end 24, like you said, he's right after Juwan Johnson and right before Jelani Woods. I mean, like that's the like. Are you kidding me? Give me that guy over those two any day. I mean, even if we go up a little higher on the tight ends, just because I think this is interesting. You got Gerald Everett at tight end 22, Noah Fant at 21, Chigozie Mukonkwo at 20. No offense to any of those guys, but Gesicki is significantly better. And I think once he finds a team, his value will skyrocket because whoever goes and gets him in March is going to be getting him. Like you remember the Jonnu Smith and what was the other
Hunter
guy?
Henry.
Hunter Henry, there you go. Yeah. For the Patriots, their value went through the roof, right? Because like that team's going to get him. They're putting their money where their mouth is. So I'm right there with you, Scott. At that price, Gesicki is a screaming buy for me.
I just traded David Bell for him straight up.
Oh, come on. That's too easy.
It was offered to me, and I literally broke my phone.
Smash accept. I would gladly.
I was like, okay, it's not a tight end premium league in all fairness, but I mean, the guy is like 7.
Move on from Bell,
Yeah, but hey, I can move on from Bell and I can get Gesicki.
I need to send some offers for Gesicki right now. This is crazy. Okay.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That was a guy who's literally won the league, I think, the last 3 out of 4 years. He knows what he's doing. He's not like just some guy who's randomly out there trading. Like he has a really good team. So, I mean, I was like, okay, yeah, cool. So I'm probably the schmuck, honestly. We're going to look back in a year and be like,
oh, man.
David Bell's smashing. Gesicki's not even in the NFL. Like, I get it. But
actually, I like the Ingram comparison. I mentioned that earlier too, to where it's just a matter of him getting in the right situation. Just the offense changed into something that he can't do.
Right.
And
something else I'm noticing looking at the DLF ADP, you know who went 2 full rounds before Gesicki in ADP? Odell Beckham Jr.
Wow.
Just let that sit with you for a second. Like the guy who's not even in the league and doesn't have a team is being drafted ahead of Gesicki.
Yeah, that name is gonna hold value until he literally retires.
And 2 years after.
All the hope in the world. But geez, man, I'm just saying, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Gesicki. And that's, again, this is a 4 mock draft sample size for their super flex, but I still think that's enough to kind of get an idea. I mean, again, you're talking big swings, but 4 is better than 1. And I will look at that and say, well, Gesicki, hell yeah, sign me up. Yeah. Drew, who is your buy for the Dolphins here?
I probably would have brought up Gesicki, but I think we kind of covered what we were looking for with that. But I want to talk Tua now, especially since I kind of heard Scott.
Do it.
But I mean, so okay, with Tua, it's 2 different conversations. So you obviously have the health concerns with the concussions and whatnot, and that, I mean, none of us are doctors. We can all kind of speculate based on what we read. We can't tell the future or who's going to stay healthy or not. The only thing I can go off of is kind of what the signs we're seeing from the team and Tua himself, which there doesn't seem to be any, long-term concern or like real thoughts about retirement. I know we saw some of those, quote reports that, he was considering, or it might have been an option, but from what I've been hearing, it's not even on the table. He basically just kind of ran into bad luck with those concussions coming at such a bad time back to back. And I also heard an interesting interview. He's actually been practicing, is it jiu-jitsu or judo? One of those to where he's learning how to fall better. So he's doing some. I like it. I like it when players, go in the off season and look at some, out of the box ideas just to do things differently. So again, that's kind of the concussion conversation. Again, that's one thing. But as far as on the field, I mean, I'm not really sure what else he could show us. I think it's easy to forget kind of the hot start they got off to since the season pretty much fell apart for them in the second half. But I mean, he was like top 5 in air yards per attempt. He led the league in yards per attempt, number 3 in QBR, at 50% deep ball completion percentage, which was the top of the leagues. And obviously his deep ball was the big question coming in. Both of his receivers, Waddle and Tua, I think they were both like top 10 in air yard share as well. So it wasn't like this dink and dunking that we thought he would be doing, but he was actually pushing the ball down the field. So I would say, Tua, especially in two QB leagues, is a huge buy for me.
Yeah, so Tua actually finished 8th in points per game, and he was right there with Justin Fields, Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. These are all guys, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones. These guys were all within like a point of each other, points per game. So obviously he was keeping up, and like you said, he supported the receivers and their value. He did not look good against like good teams, but not, that's not always how it works, right? Not everybody is gonna, I mean, that's why they're good defenses, right? Because they do well against quarterbacks and offenses, right? I mean, that's what makes them good defense. So I'm not gonna kill him for that. I think the injury concerns compiled with the kind of radio silence on extension and uncertainty, and I mean, there's just a lot going on there. It just might be a situation I just kind of want to avoid. But it comes down to value, right? Because then it's at a certain point it becomes a value, but I don't think we've hit that point yet. He's QB 11 right now, in DLF startup ADP.
So he did lose a ton of value. So he's still a QB1 value.
Yeah, I mean he's right there. I mean, would you rather have Tua or Kyler, Tua or Watson? I mean, you could put those guys.
I'm taking those
Dak.
2 over Tua. Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of the 9, 10, 11, 12 there. It's kind of pick your poison there, whatever you prefer. I wouldn't make the argument really for or against any of them. It's just really whatever your preference is and whatever your roster build. So I mean, that's fine. I was never a big Tua fan to begin with, so I think I'll probably just avoid at this cost. I don't know if you can sell him, but we have a question in the chat, which is kind of interesting. And this might be where there is opportunity, is somebody who's truly scared about the health aspect. Puff Pass Kick. What's up, man? Always in the chat, always sending us questions. Appreciate you. We DM a lot too. So man, I appreciate you a lot. So he says, in a 10-team super flex, if unable to trade up, would you trade back, essentially trade Tua for Mac Jones and 23 second, which looks like the 207. Have the Tua Waddle stack, and then have Skyler, and only other quarterback is Stafford. And I'll tell you what, Mac, we're going to talk about Mac Jones here coming up, but in a 10-team league, I want the best players possible. So I'm going to still stick with Tua there personally. So I guess you can kind of see there is still a line, even for somebody who's not a Tua truther. I'm not quite going that far. The 207 isn't enough for me to make up that difference with Mac Jones. Andrew, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I'd stick.
Well, yeah. So I'll jump in here and just kind of answer with like puff pass kick. I'm with you. I think that's a fair trade, but I'm the same. I'm keeping Tua for that price. I do like Mac Jones. We will talk about him later, but the stack is always kind of nice. It makes it more fun. So it's kind of narrative based, but for me, if you're going to break up a stack, I want a really good, really solid offer. I'd almost rather do Tua plus a piece and tier up a little bit rather than break Tua up at this point. Tua for me was a hold, by the way. I think Tua is one of those players that right now, if he's QB 11, I think there is a chance that that's still kind of, weighed down by some of the negative news and the concussions and all this, like the Willie or Woney. I think if we get past the draft and, start seeing him in training camp and things like that, and, in June, and we start seeing Tyreek and Waddle kind of doing amazing one-handed catches, and Tyreek's on Twitter hyping him up, we could easily see him, be QB 8, 7, 8, 9 kind of thing in July. And again, there are question marks about those other quarterbacks. Kyler, obviously right above him, who isn't going to play, I don't think, until October. I mean, his value is only going to go further down from here. So that obviously means Tua is going to rise up, in my opinion. If one goes down, the other has to go up. Dak had some question marks. Trevor's looking solid. Justin Fields, again, I don't think the team trades Justin Fields, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but there are some question marks about the way that team is run. If they don't draft a receiver and they're left with their current team and how it looks, maybe Fields could see a dip because people don't like that. So there's some question marks ahead of him, and I just think Tua's probably got the safest floor right now, and I don't think it's going to go down. So that's why he was my hold. And in theory, anyway, again, knowing what we know today, I'd rather just hold Tua. So perfect question for that, because it's like, nope, hold Tua. That's my answer.
Yeah.
What do you think, Drew?
Without a doubt.
Nope. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better than you. Yeah. And to me, 10 team, 12, 14, really any format, I wouldn't do that deal. So, I mean, we'll talk about Mac later, but I'm not high on Mac Jones at all, especially like in fantasy. So I'm definitely not considering it.
Any other Dolphins you guys want to cover? I just have Waddle and Tyreek as kind of holds, honestly. Like Tyreek's he's hitting that age, and he's a lot of speed, but he's just such a weapon. It's hard to sell if you have a competing team. He'll probably die on my competing rosters, honestly. Like that's fine. I'll live with it. But anybody else you guys wanted to mention?
Well,
Miami
I'll just again piggyback real quick. Tyreek for me was the sell, but not right now. It's kind of like a weird caveat, and kind of playing both angles here. I would hold Tyreek for now, and then once he tweets something or you see an amazing catch, sell, just get out, because I don't know if his value is going to go much higher than it is right now, and I'd much rather sell and lose a little bit of value. You don't need him on your roster for right now anyway. Rosters don't matter, lineups don't matter, so there's no real benefit, in my opinion, in holding him on your roster for the season. It's 9 months away or 6 months away, whatever. So yeah, I'm holding until I feel like there's a spike in a manufactured spike, maybe is the way to put it, where it's like, it's not a real value.
Some hype,
just some hype. And I think Tyreek will definitely provide you some hype, and you should be able to get out pretty soon.
Yep. I think we should definitely expect at least another couple of years of elite play. Although I am a little bit more willing to at least listen to offers, because unlike Stephon Diggs, with him being a speed guy, I do think we might see that cliff come and kind of unexpectedly. So again, so it's not kind of I don't view him the same as Diggs, where he might even be a buy in some situations. But for the most part, he's a hold unless somebody just really wants to backload the Brinks truck for him.
Gonna have
for sure. That definitely makes sense. Well, we can get to the Mac Jones talk here then. Next team, the Patriots. And again, I'm going to list these returning players in order of their cap number. And the highest paid player
this is nuts.
Is Matt Judon, which makes sense. Yeah. That's fair. Okay. Very good player. Yep. The second highest paid player is Jonnu Smith, and the third highest paid player is Hunter Henry. That is
unbelievable.
Absolutely wild. It was like, oh, we have cap space. We should use it. Even if these players are bad, we're paying them all. It just was a weird thing, but it's kind of like nobody questions Belichick because it's like, well, okay. I mean, yeah, I get it, you know, but like, yeah. So yeah, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. Then after that, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker still under contract. And then we get to basically the, rookie deals, Mac Jones, Tyquan Thornton, Ramondre Stevenson, Pierre Strong, JJ Taylor, Kevin Harris. Notable free agents, a few guys there, Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers, and Damian Harris. They still have like 17 running backs under contract, and they'll probably draft 2 more, and they'll probably sign 6 more.
A couple people.
Losing Damian Harris, I don't know that it changes a whole lot there. But I will say in the past, if you look back, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer of like the whole Patriots thing. Like I know they have been big on the rotations and having that pass catching back. And specifically Bill O'Brien, now that he's back, we know that he does that even in Alabama. But when they've had good backs, they've used them, to the majority of the workload, maybe not being a full like bell cow, like where Adrian Peterson gets 85% of the touches or something like that. Right. But Ramondre Stevenson certainly has the body type to do that. So I don't know that. I mean, it's weird. It could be a good argument on that, but I'm gonna let you guys start with your buy here for the Patriots. And Drew, let's start with you.
So I guess if I had to pick out a buy, again, this is a popular name that a lot of folks are buying. So a lot of times when that's the case, they really aren't a buy. But I'll go with Jacoby Myers, just because I think he's just one of those receivers that's always going to be underrated and slept on for fantasy wise, just because he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. Pretty much everything else when you look at the metrics as far as just yards and targets and receptions is there. So I think if you can kind of buy him at the kind of that low end wide receiver 2 price right now, he's actually one of those ones that once he does get that contract, I know a lot of people are comparing it to that Christian Kirk situation. Like if he gets paid big and people think he's going to be the next Christian Kirk, he could easily become a sell to me as well. Because I think Christian Kirk would probably be his like absolute best case scenario, and I don't like expecting that with players. So he could easily go to another team and just remain the low end to mid wide receiver 2 that is easily replaceable. So yeah, he's one of those interesting ones that you might be able to kind of sneak a buy in. Maybe if it's like a bigger deal, again, kind of what we mentioned, some of those guys before, just kind of throw in Jacoby Myers and maybe you give a second back, just kind of even a trade out. But then once he gets the bag and all the hype is around him, sell him for a late first.
I like that. Yeah, that's good logic.
Yeah, I mean he's wide receiver 49 right now, so yeah, which is kind of crazy considering what he's done.
That's so low.
Too low.
Way below his floor. Yeah.
Well, so I'll just pivot into mine. Then my buy was Mac Jones. Right. Let's talk about this and kind of bring it up. I don't mind being low on Mac Jones, but I'm not QB 21 low on Mac Jones. That feels too low to me. I'm thinking again in a super flex league. I don't want to start Mac Jones as my second quarterback, but I'd love him as my third. I think he's got a lot of upside. They could bring somebody into that offense and change it around. There could be some trades, free agency. We know Bill Belichick loves doing that. Obviously, we just saw the contracts they gave Smith and Henry, who are still their top 2 contracts on offense at this point for fantasy. I think Mac Jones has a very short leash. I think this is probably the last year that the Mac Jones experiment works, if at all. I mean, they could even draft somebody, right? Which again, I'm as someone who's trying to buy Mac Jones, that doesn't help my argument other than buy him later if you think they're going to draft somebody. I think the catch is quarterback gets kind of disgusting after the first 15 or 16 anyway. And so it's sort of like what we talked about with Gesicki. For me, it's like, I'll take a shot. I'll take a flyer. I've got a bunch of leagues. I don't have much Mac Jones. I'll add a Mac Jones here or there, like try to trade Goff for Mac Jones plus, which a year ago was crazy talk. You know what I mean? Like you just never know. So Mac Jones is still young. It is a chance he turns it around, but if he doesn't, he might have a very short NFL career, and this all sounds stupid in a year. Who knows? But yeah, for now, I'm looking at that as a good value for quarterback.
So not only did they sign those 2 tight ends to those crazy deals, but they also drafted 2 rookies in that draft, Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene, and they're still paying them right now. They have dead money on both of those players. That's got to be one of the worst scenarios that has ever happened. That is absolutely wild to think about, drafting 2 at the position, signing 2 at the position, and having all that money. I mean, they have like 30% of their cap in like 4 players. Okay.
Hunter Henry is tight end 31, and Jonnu Smith is not even ranked. Like, no, that's how bad they are for fantasy. Like, that's just bonkers.
Dropped. He's on waivers. Unbelievable. He's on waivers. I have a 42-man roster league that's a 1.75 tight end premium, and Jonnu Smith hasn't been rostered in a year. So that should tell you right there. He's completely irrelevant.
I drank the Jonnu juice a couple years ago.
Oh, same. I did too. Same. No doubt. But
in Tennessee, I definitely did.
Yeah.
And that poisoned me. Yeah.
Well, I'll follow up here because Mac Jones is also my buy. He was my sell a year ago this time. But he's my buy now because I don't see how it gets worse. And the crazy thing is, like, we saw this coming, right? We're like, wait a minute, you hired 2 coaches that failed miserably and have spent their entire lifetime on the other side of the ball, or like special teams even. And now they're running an offense with a young quarterback and not really any real like bona fide weapon. You know, it's one thing if he has like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill running around out there, right? It's like, okay, we'll get those guys the ball. Like, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. But it was a weird situation. And again, we just thought, oh, Belichick, he's probably way ahead of us on that. You know, who knows?
Just blindly trusting it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, hey, what are you gonna do?
Or not?
When you're that good. But now that he has Bill O'Brien, you know, they have a little bit of a connection, and I think there's going to be just kind of a rebounding effect, like not to the same level as like you know, what the Jaguars went through, right? But just getting back to like some normalization in that offensive room and that quarterback room, just like having a normal game plan and a normal week and like actual coaching. And I do think there's almost no chance that they don't sign and or draft multiple receivers for this team. So they're going to have improved weapons. They're going to have a real offense. And I don't see how Mac Jones ends up any worse than quarterback 21, which is where he currently is. You know, he's definitely a guy I like to pivot to, like we talked about earlier, maybe not from Tua, but, you know, kind of in that next range. I just made a trade of Andrew. We talked about this earlier, actually, a couple days ago. I think I traded Zach Wilson. I wanted to get Zach Wilson off any rosters that I had him. I think I had 3 shares. I wanted him gone no matter what it cost. I basically was just throwing him in. And Zach Wilson, Brian Robinson, and like the 202 for Mac Jones and a third. And it's just like, it's not a big trade. It's nothing crazy, but like having Mac Jones now behind like Kyler Murray, now I feel good about my quarterback room because I know Mac will be playing until I get Kyler healthy. Yeah, right.
You're going to be all right.
that's kind of this scenario where I want him. And like you said, I don't want him as like my QB1, obviously. Yeah. But you could see this guy having a couple of like QB 14, 16 type seasons, maybe even getting one of those like QB 11, you know, Kirk Cousins type, where he gets a good weapon and gets some touchdown luck, or, you know, Ramondre isn't scoring all the touchdowns on the ground. So yeah, I'm in on Mac, and I've talked about that before too. So we can kind of move on from that. And I will go to Ramondre here as my sell. I like him a lot, and he was a great value, and he's a guy I drafted late in a lot of my rookie drafts and has significantly paid off. And I think that's where I'm looking at it from, is from the portfolio aspect, to say like, I've made my profit. So I'm going to probably sell at this point. Regardless of what happens, I'll just take my profit and roll it in somewhere else. I'm always willing to do that on running backs.
Where is he being drafted at right now? As far as
he's RB16, which to me seems low. So it's weird to kind of say, well, he seems low, but he's a sell. That doesn't really make any sense. But again, it's just a running back position for me. That's how I manage my portfolio. That's my roster build. So, that's why it makes sense for me, but I would expect some pushback on that, no doubt. But yeah, Drew, if you want to jump into your sell and your hold for the Patriots.
Actually, I'm fine with selling Ramondre too. So I mean, when you said RB16, that was a little bit lower than I expected, because I see a lot of people that are kind of pushing him into the RB1 territory. But the concern is that he did a lot of his damage after Damian Harris got injured, and then when Damian Harris came back, even though I know Ramondre kind of got banged up too, which kind of muddies things, but it went right back to like a split. And even the last game, I think Harris had like twice as many carries as Ramondre. So I feel like it's just, I mean, I know this is an old, beat down narrative, but Bill Belichick just he hates fantasy football. I mean, it's one of those cliches that we say it for a reason. Like, I don't think he's going to allow us to be able to trust this, running back week in and week out. But with that being said, like I said, if he kind of stays in that, RB16 to mid RB2 range, I think he'll return value there. But I think, it'll definitely depend on what they do in the offseason. Like if they don't really do much, I think he's going to shoot up and be like our top 10 running back. I think people might just kind of be waiting to see how the draft and free agency plays out.
Well, and I'll just kind of go on the real quick on the Ramondre thing here too. I thought this was interesting. Again, looking at DLF ADP, yes, he's RB16. They have him at 59th overall. Of the 4 drafts, he went 59th, 60th, and 60th. Like that is about dead on what his value is. If you look at that, like there's not a lot of fluctuation valuation in there. Dalvin Cook is right behind him. That seems kind of crazy how far Cook has fallen. J.K. Dobbins is RB18. Cam Akers is RB19.
I love Dobbins.
Yeah, like I love Dobbins. I still think Cook's got some left in the tank. Ahead of him, you got Williams, Henry, Pollard, and Chubb. I mean, like that's a good group to be a part of, but that's a whole tier to me. Like that's hard to say. Like, do I belong in there or not? So, as we usually say, I'm trying to sell running backs most of the time. If I can sell Ramondre for like Cooper Kupp, if somebody's really high on Ramondre and really thinks he's the guy, and they're down on Cooper Kupp, who could still be the wide receiver 1 next year. I mean, that might be a pivot I'm willing to make, even though Cooper Kupp is obviously older. He's going to be 30 at the start of this season. I still think in the way that offense plays and the way Kupp plays, I think I'd rather have him. I think he's going to score more points as long as he stays healthy, which we can never guarantee. So that was kind of my thoughts in a way on Ramondre. And I have to put this in here because I think it's entertaining, because Puff Pass Kick put this in the chat. Jared Goff and Danny Dimes were my buy low QBs in Superflex last year. Nice. Andrew Hall knows what I'm talking about. Thank you. I like to hear that. But Mac Jones is that guy for me this year. So, yeah, he's on the same page as the rest of us.
I guess y'all might swing me on Mac.
Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily swinging or selling. It's just more where the value is. Like, all right.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Yeah, a quarterback that young at QB 21, it's hard to argue that. You're not going to.
Well, and I think too, quarterback, we've been kind of blessed for a while. We've had the Aaron Rodgers and the Drew Brees and even the Andrew Luck years and Tom Brady. My God, I mean, like all these players that just sort of stuck around and have made it very consistent top 12. It is no longer consistent top 12. We've seen a whole bunch of shuffling at the top. Yeah, and I think we're going to continue to see that. Where now you're QB2, you might have to actually have a discussion in your head when you set that lineup. Like, man, do I play my QB2 in my Superflex, or do I play my RB4? Like there's going to be some of those discussions that haven't had to happen much recently, but that quarterback position is just getting bleak quick. So I don't mind taking a flyer on Jones. I'm hoping I don't have to start him, but same kind of goes for Ramondre. I think he's got a lot of value, but there could be weeks if they draft someone, or hell, let's say Harris comes back, or they're splitting carries, or I mean, who knows? This offense is going to change drastically. So to say if I'm looking at that offense changing and I'm higher on Jones, I have to be down on Ramondre because he did so well in the offense last year and they're changing it. So like, I don't know. I just feel like they're all kind of tied together, as we know. And Ramondre for me is the sell as well, just to kind of follow suit.
Yeah. And if I could just throw in like a hold before we move on, Damian Harris, he's somebody who I think, a lot of people might just be kind of, moving on to him because in general, like we said, the running back.
I don't know where he's going to land or whatever.
Huge reckoning. But I mean, if you are buying running backs, I would buy like free agents. Because at least that the team they're going to is the team obviously don't guarantee to have a plan, because Rojo was a free agent too. But
I mean, Harris, you besmirch.
Yeah, well, and he won't cost a lot. So
well, that's what I was going to say. Like if you're buying for a fourth or a third or something, you're not risking anything.
I bet you could probably get him for like an early third in most leagues.
Especially if you're on the clock.
I'm looking for last year's Jamal Williams. So like Damian Harris, even David Montgomery, if he ends up in a good spot, somebody that can just get that it's been kind of, in a bad situation has sparked a bit, but if they can get into a good offense, you have some touchdown luck, it'll be a nice RB2 for you. So yeah, Damian Harris is somebody I'll hold and maybe even throw out some offers for if I'm
I like that. Harris is going to be 26. That's not that old.
He's still in his prime.
Yeah. The other hold I had, which was my choice, was the same kind of logic, was Tyquan Thornton. Like, don't throw him away yet. I think that guy has some potential. I think you could probably still go buy him for relatively cheap. I don't think that I don't even know what his ADP was on here. Is it even on here? Here you go. Wide receiver 68. Yeah. So like he's way down there with like Rashid Shaheed, Darius Slayton, those kind of guys. I think Thornton has a chance to step up in this offense. Even if they draft somebody, he's been there a year longer, and maybe he's got some more potential in this new Bill O'Brien offense. So like, again, same logic. The price is going to be so low. I don't think I'm selling him. You're not going to get anything for him.
No.
He might be a buy if the price is super cheap, but I'm just going to hold and see where it goes. As we see through free agency, I think Thornton could be one of those sleeper wide receivers that sees your flex spot a couple weeks.
Yeah, I hope he could be like Robbie Anderson, kind of have those wide receiver 2 stretches, kind of like that, and then at that point you might be able to sell him. Yeah, I like that name. Yep.
Anything else on your end, I guess, Scott, for the Panthers, the Patriots today?
Panthers. Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, I know you got me.
Speaking of Ron, hey, look at that. Nice work, Drew. You messed him up. I love it.
Pivot.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, the Patriots aren't real interesting at this point. So, but I think there's going to be a lot of changes. So we'll have to take advantage of those as they happen. But speaking of a really interesting team,
it can be. Hang on.
I was going to say for fantasy,
defensively, if you're playing IDP, I'll start the New York Jets. This one also has a couple interesting players. Again, if we list in order, returning players, their cap hit: Corey Davis still at the top, CJ Uzomah, Zach Wilson, Tyler Conklin, Braxton Berrios, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. Get this, they not only have a Bryce Hall and a Breece Hall, they also have a Michael Carter and a Michael Carter too. This is fascinating to me. I was like, really? Like this on both teams? Like, I think the GM's just having fun with that, honestly. Right. Like, does anyone know who Bryce Hall or Michael Carter too is? I mean, come on. That's, no notable free agents, not much there. James Robinson is a free agent, and their backup quarterbacks are as well. So basically the whole quarterback room is going to turn over. I mean, Zach Wilson might be on the roster, but they're going to sign, draft, steal, whatever they could do to bring in quarterbacks here that can help them win games, because that kind of seems like the missing piece. And all the other teams are on the upswing here for the most part, and they need to play some catch up. And obviously the only way you can do that is at the quarterback position. I would not be shocked if they ended up making a move to draft one, just because that's the owner, that's the GM, that's what they like to do. I think they're more likely to sign one of these veterans, but I wouldn't be shocked if they miss out on the carousel there and don't get who they want and end up, But the biggest concern I have with them is signing the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks coach are two of the worst offensive performers we have seen in recent history. Like literally two of the bottom 5 that we have ever seen in our lifetimes. And you're like, let's bring in both of these guys. Like what? It just, I don't know what they're doing from that standpoint. It's very strange to have such an intelligent, well thought out plan from a GM bringing in players. And obviously they drafted well, and they have both offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year. I mean, and it's draft after draft here. There's been a couple of misses, but they've had some really good drafts. And then their coaching is just not been great. So it's hard to really buy in to say like, I think this is going to be great for everybody. Even if they get one of these veteran quarterbacks, I mean, you're going to initially think it's going to be a boost, but I don't know. Like even Breece Hall's coming off the injury, and these other receivers are talented, but offensively, I don't know. It is interesting to me from that standpoint, is how is all this going to come together?
Well, and just because you mentioned it, I mean, I had forgotten who their offensive coordinator was. I'm like, who did they sign again? That's right, Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
like that's not great, Bob. So yeah, that makes
like how is somebody just waiting to sign him? After what happened to Denver?
That's a ballsy move.
It's like the Aaron Rodgers play, I guess. Didn't Denver try that last year?
It's like a repeat of what Denver tried to do.
Yeah.
Well, and it didn't go well there. So let's try it again over on the East Coast. I'm going to jump in with this and just sort of say the cop-out answer for me, even information, is on the Jets. I mean, get a discount on someone, Garrett Wilson or a Breece Hall, fine. But generally speaking, I'm looking at it like the Jets are all at the dollar bin at your store. You're probably not having to pay a whole lot for any of them. There is a ton of talent there. I think Elijah Moore could have a rebirth and kind of come back if they get someone like an Aaron Rodgers. So I hope that's what they do, but I don't know. This team is rough. You were saying before, like the roughest team. This one might be the hardest team. I don't know. This is a rough one. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, I went back and forth. So I still believe in the talent for Elijah Moore. Like, I mean, I was like so many other people, I was so high on him after his first season. I mean, you can't completely throw away though the performance when Garrett Wilson was right across from him and completely balled out. So I guess he would kind of be more like a hold for me. So like, don't just ship him out for peanuts because you think he's like his value is going to drop off or something like that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know I think my audio might have been cutting in and out. Or
it's probably me.
Okay, so
sorry for everybody listening.
So yeah, I didn't know exactly what you were saying about Breece Hall, but yeah, I don't have any hot takes or anything against the grain with him. I love him just as much as everybody else, and I think he's going to be a superstar. So I mean, if you do have somebody that might be a little bit concerned that the ACL might be like a J.K. Dobbins or just some like Saquon last year situation where he takes a while to get back from it, you might be able to kind of sneak in a buy window from a contender.
Sure.
But yeah, from what I heard, it's his ACL is one of the more kind of straightforward ones. There's no like meniscus or LCL or any of those. So for what I've seen, he should be good to go by camp. So I think Breece will pick up right where he left off last year.
Well, just to recap, because I had too many windows open, and that Nathaniel Hackett thing just broke my whole computer. Because my computer was like, I don't want to see that. But no, what I was kind of getting into there was like, that offense I think can only go up, right? I mean, like they're all at discount. They're all very cheap right now, and that's kind of where I think they're all pretty good buys. Even Breece, I think there's some question marks, like you were saying. I'm not worried. I think he's going to come back and dominate. So if you can get anyone to give you a discount, I've even seen some people talking, and I'm again not in my league or whatever. But I've seen some people talking about seeing a discount on Garrett Wilson because, again, who else does that offense have? And, like, his value might be plummeting. If they get Aaron Rodgers, if they draft a guy, whoever they're going to get, Garrett Wilson's a stud. You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me right now? So, yeah, I'm not too worried at all about that offense. And I'm looking forward to them only going up, really. They had such a bad year. It's even with Nathaniel Hackett, I think they're going to be a better offense for fantasy. So, yeah, that was kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on the receivers here because Elijah Moore is my buy. We talked about Jacoby Myers earlier at wide receiver 49. Elijah Moore is right there at wide receiver 48. We know the talent's there. If you've read any of the stories, the beat reporters, anything coming out of that locker room last year, like there was some major issues with Carter and the OC. It was probably more of a doghouse situation. I mean, plus they just didn't have the quarterbacks to really support anyone else. Right. I mean, if we talk about stud quarterbacks supporting multiple receivers, well, they obviously didn't have it. So the fact that Garrett Wilson did what he did is even more impressive.
Wilson ate everybody's lunch.
So yeah, he did. He's just phenomenal. And So I had Moore as my buy, and I had Wilson as my hold for kind of what you were talking about, Andrew. Basically, he's at wide receiver 10. So you could say, yeah, hey, I've got to get him. I've got to get this guy for the next, 5 years, whatever. I totally get that, and that's fine. You can pay the price for him. And some people might be saying, well, I don't know. That might have been an outlier situation. If we have a better quarterback, the ball gets spread around, it's better offense. There's talent there still. Whatever. I can see every angle from that, which is why I just think he's a hold. He's fine. He's fine where he's at. If you spent an early pick on him, you're in good shape. You're ahead. You have a net gain, and you have a great young receiver. So there's really no reason to do anything with him other than see how his future goes. So I'm holding.
Would y'all take Olave or Wilson right now? Because I'm just wondering, like, if you could get like Olave plus even if it's like, I don't know, like a third for Wilson, like, would you sell Wilson for that? Because I think I probably would, like, if I could get something with Olave, I would take Olave at this point over Wilson.
Yeah, my cop-out answer is going to be whichever way gets me the plus, right? Like, if you're in a league and you've got Wilson and someone's willing to give you Olave plus for Wilson, I'll make that move. To me, those two are in very identical question mark situations where they're both having a quarterback change and a potential big offense change, and there's a whole lot of all that, but their talent is just so damn good. And I just think that they're both going to be in the league for a long time. They're both going to have a long career and all that. So yeah, I kind of, it's not really an answer, but it's an answer. Like, whichever one you can get the other guy to give you more for is the one that I want to trade away for that extra piece, because again, it's a tier. They're the same in my book. So I don't know if I'm really targeting one with the other. If you're trying to build a trade and you see that they've got Olave and you've got Wilson, and you're like, well, hey, if that gets the deal done, do it and throw them both in, something like that, where they're equal value to you, but the other guy values them differently. That's probably where I'd make a trade. Yeah. But I'm not actively trying to ship one for the other.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they're 10 and 11 at their position. They're basically the same age, the same size. They're the alphas on their teams. I mean, there's like everything. Yeah.
College.
It's really hard. The interesting thing, though, for me personally, I have one rookie draft that I do before the NFL draft, and I had the 103. And Drake London was my guy, and so everybody was expecting me to take him, but I took Garrett Wilson because I felt like he was the safest. Because again, we didn't have draft capital yet, so we don't know. Yeah. It's a different strategy in that type of league. So I went with Garrett Wilson. Now I also had Olave ranked pretty highly up there as well, and so I ended up with so much Olave. I have 9 shares. So I only ended up with like 3 Wilson. So for me, I'd probably be pivoting off of Olave to get Wilson, but it's only just to balance my portfolio.
It's a tie break. Yeah, that's a perfect.
That's the tie break. Yeah, so there's really no analysis there that's going to help anyone. So we could just move on from that at this point. I think that pretty much wraps up the AFC East. We covered it. I mean, we hit every area. I think there's always going to be a few under the radar type players. People are like, oh, well, I'm buying, Pierre Strong or whatever. And like, that's cool. Like, I agree. Like, go add him off waivers, or send a 5th round pick for him or whatever. Like, yeah, for sure.
Or if you want to continue to be a Denzel Mims truther and think this is the year, go for it. Hold him. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Your breakout, baby. Or 4th year, I guess. Whatever.
I do have one team that has Mims roster. I haven't done it yet.
I think I have Mims on 114 teamer. Yeah, I
do. Because last year they had all the trade rumors. I thought he was going to get like traded to the Bears.
That's why I held on.
And then nothing.
Darn. Exactly.
All right.
Well, let's move on to find me a trade here. We're gonna do like a little SNL thing where they have like the 5 timers, jacket. So like this is this one's submitted by Nurk at Nurkaleptic on Twitter. And welcome, Nurk, to the 3 timers club. This is your 3rd time getting a team on here. And honestly, it's hard to pick which one each week. We get a lot of great submissions and we want to help everybody. But this one was a little bit different than something I think we've ever done, which is very rare at this point, 132 episodes in. So I think, the thing that keeps it fun is that things are constantly changing. And then obviously we have the guest that comes in and gives a totally different perspective, right? So like, that's what keeps it interesting and fun, and everybody gets to learn from it. But this league, I just felt like I don't know that we've ever done one of these leagues.
The Champion Cup, you mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we've ever done one on FMAT. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different way to think about it, but it might be interesting. So, Andrew, do you want to do the roster, or do you want to do the settings?
I got the roster up, so I'll try to do that here. You want to read his stuff while I pull it? That's perfect.
Yeah, this is a Dynasty Champion Cup series, and the way that this works, this is run through Safe Leagues. Our good friend Scott Fish. It's basically 48 teams. It's 4 12-team leagues, and essentially you're gathering points. So if you finish first, you get 5 points. You finish second, you get 3 points. You finish third, you get a point. If you're the highest scoring team for the season, you get a point. And then this is all going to accumulate over, several seasons, with the winner getting the big pot. So you're earning money along the way in your leagues, and it's still 12 team, right? You're still doing your 12 team draft. And then at the end, you're going to have like a overall pot here that somebody's going to end up winning with the most points. So you kind of do have a chance to retool a little bit here if your team didn't turn out great from the startup draft. But there is still like an end date to it, essentially. So you have to kind of build towards a crescendo of getting those points. Or maybe you try to get the points early on and then hang on long enough, right, that you accumulate enough. So it's interesting way to do it. There's a lot of different strategies. And so this is a 12-team super flex PPR. It is 2.0 tight end premium. Safe leagues are 6-point passing touchdown, -4 for interceptions. Start 10, 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, tight end, 3 flex, and super flex. They were 30 roster spots. They're now Scott's simplifying everything with all the leagues and making them all 28 roster spots. And there's no IR, there's no taxi. Again, safe leagues, thousands of leagues. They don't deal with all the crazy things that can shut down teams and leagues. So it's 28 roster spots. That's it. That's what you got for the season. And so here's Nurk's thoughts on this. So before last season, he traded away Kyle Pitts for 323 first and Ramondre Stevenson. That I love that trade.
That's insane.
That's awesome. Then still prior to the season, move Cooper Kupp for a 23 first and Michael Pittman, and start planning for this 23 draft and beyond, and just not compete in 22. So he earned the 103, and with the additional trades ended up with the 104, the 107, 109, 111, and the 211. Tried in season to move multiple firsts for Herbert, but for some reason the owner hasn't been active. Maybe they got replaced. It is common that, just like any league, managers can leave and the points will actually carry over with the team. So sometimes you can even buy some of these teams that already have accumulated points or whatever. So it's kind of interesting from that standpoint. But essentially the points stay with the franchise. They don't stay with the manager. So maybe that manager got replaced and you can go back to that. And I would trade like all of these first for if it were me. But maybe look for that, or just target any of the other top quarterbacks in that range as well. My main questions: what do I do with all of these picks, considering my roster construction? Which one should I move and for whom? Or which one should I stick with and draft? So again, different league type here, a little bit different strategy. And as we get into all the, picks and rookie drafts, I think it's definitely the right time to talk about this. So great submission here. I don't want to start because I think this one's crazy. So
yeah, let me get the roster.
Let's go ahead and do your roster.
Yeah, so here's Nurk's roster, which again, 21 players. He's preparing for all these picks, which is pretty clever too. Like in these kind of leagues, just cut the chaff, get it out of there. I don't blame you. So Tua Tagovailoa and Russell Wilson at quarterback, and after that, you got Jacoby Brissett, who put up points and could put up points again as your QB3, and Jameis Winston could be on a team. We don't know. A little risky there. Running back, you got J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, Zonovan Knight, Samaje Perine, Deonta Foreman. Not bad with Williams and Dobbins. I don't mind those. Neither one's an RB1 really, but they're both on that solid RB2 phrase for me. Receiver, I mean, you got Michael Pittman, you got Chris Godwin, Gabe Davis, Elijah Moore. Like I understand why this team didn't win a lot, but this team isn't bad, because then you've got tight end Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, Irv Smith, Kylan Granson. Like for a team of 21 players, this is solid. Like I'm actually pretty impressed with the bones of this team. And I'll go first since we're, not really sure what to do, but we all took the assignment and really did our best here. His question is, what should I do with the picks? And so I'm like, all right, when I first see that, I'm like, all right, well, what picks am I going to try to send? And we all took the assignment to heart. So mine was initially going to be the 109 to the team 2-3 Jet Chip Wasp, which I'm guessing is a play of some sort, for Jared Goff and CEH. Now, I don't know if the 109 is enough, so I moved it to the 107 on the sheet. I think you should be able to get Jared Goff for a first, and even like a mid first is probably okay value for me in this kind of league. And then everyone is done with CEH. Everyone's out on him. They, nobody can know what to try. This is the perfect kind of team where you've got roster spots, and you need to roster if you throw it. So the thought here would be, send the 109 for Goff and CEH, and if he counters with the 107, accept. That's what my plan would be. If he says the 109 for, did any of that come through? Because my computer kind of glitched for a second there.
Not the end there.
The last 10 seconds cut out, but we heard most of it.
You get the idea. Anyway, yeah. So I just stopped sharing because it was not happy with me. But no,
we heard you go through the trade.
Yeah. To recap, get a first and send a first for Goff and put an extra piece in there. And this is just, again, general thesis of what I like to do is make that negotiating kind of obvious, I guess, or like put in there like, hey, I'm willing to send this. If they accept, you're happy. If they counter, you're happy. Everybody wins, right? I'm not saying that that's a smash accepted that guy's going to definitely take the 107. I also think that's the kind of trade with any pick. You can wait till you're on the clock to make it, right? So I'm not saying you have to send that today, but if you send the 111 for that and he doesn't want it, great, wait a month and then send the 109. He doesn't want it, great, wait a month. Why not? That's kind of where my thoughts were on that. So I think it's a pretty straightforward trade, but Scott, do you have any questions or concerns, I guess, with that idea?
Yeah, I think value makes perfect sense. I would also start with one of the lower first and then see if they counter. But you're right with the extra roster spots that you can, pick up players like that. CEH is a great example of a guy that, take a shot, see what happens. I mean, it's you have the roster spots in order to do that. The one thing I will say is that this roster is full of a lot of the players that we've been talking about as buys. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but there's also a lot of downside because obviously not all of them are going to hit. Right. So you're going to have to hope that based on how you acquired them, you're going to gain enough value overall, which it sounds like based on the trades that you made, you're definitely on the right track from that standpoint. And then I think this trade just follows along with that. It gives you that kind of safe third quarterback with what, we obviously expect Russ to rebound, but at the same time, is he ever going to be like an elite guy? Probably not. And then, obviously Tua we talked about earlier. So having Goff as that third safe guy, I think is very important in super flex, and taking those shots on guys that like CEH. So yeah, that all makes sense to me. I kind of came from a similar thought process with mine, so I'm going to jump into that one. I love here.
It, yeah.
So I actually don't think the overall process is right, but I'm going to tell you how I got here. So here's the thing: you have what, 5 of the first 11 picks. I'm trying to think of how to say this. If you make all of those picks, you lose.
Right.
Like that's so you do want to trade some of them, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to trade all of them, and I'm not saying that you're gonna lose because you don't have the skill or the knowledge to pick the right players or anything like that. It has no reflection on you. It's just the fact that those picks hold the most value right now, and as soon as they become a player, they lose value. So that's how you're going to lose from that standpoint. So if you can move 2 or 3 of them, that would be the ideal scenario. And I do agree with what you said in the beginning. I tried to trade multiple firsts for an elite quarterback. I agree. And I think that's what you should be doing. Especially you're going to have to use those early ones like 3 and 4, because those 3 definitely, and possibly 4, could be quarterbacks. So I think that's what you'd have to move in addition to possibly a third first. And again, I'm okay with that. So having said that, I tried to kind of follow the theme of your roster of being like high variance players, right? So we know some of them are going to work out really well, and we know it's also likely that some of them aren't. So what I wanted to do was get kind of two almost safe but like undervalued players, but like really solid two starters for you essentially, and move on from some of the variants of your roster. So my idea was to move Tua. Shocker. I know everybody's shocked that I want to move Tua.
Where are my pearls?
Tua, Javonte Williams, and I would start with the 111. But I think you could easily bump up to the 9 or the 7. I have no issue with that. To the team 6 rings for Dak and DK Metcalf. And I mean, Dak and Tua, you know, we kind of talked about earlier. Do we see a huge difference between those guys? Not really. So maybe just a lateral move there. But in my opinion, safer. Maybe not the upside, but safer. Javonte is coming off the injury. We have a new offense, a new coaching staff, a lot of new stuff going on there. You also have J.K. Dobbins that's kind of coming off the injury and whatever's happening with that offense and quarterback and stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of risk already with running back. So if I can move off of a running back to a wide receiver, I'm all about that. I also think DK is maybe a little disrespected right now just because maybe it's the quarterback situation, whereas we don't know. Geno Smith is a free agent, by the way, for all these podcasters out there that are just expecting him to be the guy. Like, is it likely? Yeah, I get it. I understand, but he is a free agent. So he would have to re-sign and start. Like, that's not 100% guaranteed. And even if it is, DK did perfectly fine. So like that's almost like worst case scenario, right? Like I think that's maybe the worst thing that would happen. So I wanted to move one of your picks and then also kind of just reduce that roster variance. I guess that's the best way that I could say it. And Drew, does that make any sense to you at all?
No, I'm with you. So I get the logic, but so I guess I'll kind of dive into my game plan. I went a little bit less, I guess you would call mine less aggressive than you guys as far as some of the picks. Just because when I look at this roster, like I agree with Andrew that it has some good pieces. I'm not sure he has the running backs to compete like next year. So that's why I'm not sure if I would be willing to move first for kind of like the older quarterbacks. So what I did, I think the priority should be just to get a couple like young receivers. Because I think you had I can't remember who he had on there since the roster is now. I think it was Pittman, Godwin,
Gabe Davis, Nico
Elijah
Collins,
Moore,
DJ Chark,
yeah.
Moore.
So like kind of a bunch of like
you have
threes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would trade target some guys again, it kind of depends on who you like, but ones that I would be buying now, like Jahan Dotson or Jerry Jeudy. I think those are the type of guys you can get with like the 109 or 111. And even, if you throw in like the 211 or a third or something like that, especially for somebody like Jeudy, because I know he's getting a lot of hype right now, but even like the 109 plus, I'm willing to buy him just to get some stability in that right receiver group. And I'm fine with making the 103 and 104. We've been waiting for this class for years now. I'm sure he's been excited about these picks. So let's go ahead and make them. I know you mentioned them, possibly lose in value, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. Like when you pick the player, you could lose value, but where you're losing is really just the guarantee, like the stability. Like, when you have a draft pick, it's not going to decrease in value, but once you get that player, it could
or
go
the
down,
flexibility of
but it also could go up. Like I said, if you pick the next, Justin Jefferson or whatever. Not that I'm expecting that in this class. So I think with the 103, you could probably get one of the QBs with Bryce or Stroud, because with Tua and Russ, I'm high on Tua, and I agree that Russ is a good bounce back candidate, but I would want my quarterback 3 to be a little bit more stable than Jameis and was it Brissett?
Yeah.
So I think you get a young quarterback with the 103, and then with the 104, just best player available. So I would imagine maybe Gibbs, maybe even Jackson or JSN right there. And the 107, I think that's kind of one of those picks. It seems like there's going to be like a teardrop in most drafts that range. So you might want to hold on to that one, just kind of see what's there when you're on the clock.
Could
you
be on the clock move.
Yeah, exactly. It might kind of be like that last quarterback. So if somebody wants, Richardson or Will Levis, that'll kind of be their last chance to get a quarterback. Kind of save that one for that. But so then I think, this team is definitely set up, with some good pieces. But I think you kind of need a retooling year before making like the big moves.
Here's where I'm going to go. And while you guys were going through those, which I think are both very fine trades, I will comment quickly and say, I feel like, Scott, your trade just feels a little bit too much to me because I like Javonte and I'm not sold on Dak, but I get the logic. I think that's okay value.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other one too, like the late pick for a Judy or a Dotson. Again, I feel like that's a little heavy, but not really. Those are both more steady assets. You're getting someone similar there anyway. So again, value-wise, it makes sense. The thing is that I checked because I was trying to see if I could find this. The 101 holder, as far as I know, I don't know if I can even find this, but because I'm doubting it happened, is the orphan team and does hold their own pick and is the Justin Herbert team that we talked about. And looking at that roster, it's Wakanda Forever on the rosters. If you have it up, they are not a Bijan Robinson away from winning. So then my thought was, all right, what about 3 and 4 for 1? That's the kind of pick I would easily trade 3 and 4 for 1 in almost every draft, right? You need quarterbacks. I get it. Bijan changes this team drastically.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, running back, that's the weak spot for me.
Yeah.
Or 3, 4, 7, and 9 and 11 for Herbert and 1.
Well, same, right? Same thought, right? And actually, if I'm taking the team as an orphan, I might love that. Blow it up. Let's try it again. And again, I'm just looking at it as a new owner, a new manager in this league with the 101.
I like that.
And not a lot of other picks. I don't want the 101. I'm easily trading that 101 because this just for the sake of clarity, the orphan team in this league has Justin Herbert and Carson Wentz at quarterback. Running back is Zeke Elliott, Hassan Haskins, Ronald Jones. It falls off a cliff. Like, that's terrible running backs.
No tight ends.
No tight ends. No, he's got Devin Asiasi, we talked about.
Receiver,
he's got T. Higgins, Mike Evans, DeAndre Carter, who actually scored some points, Josh Palmer, who scored
37-year-old Velus Jones,
Sammy Watkins, Mike Williams. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of those guys. But
he has a lot of work to do.
Yeah. That team is a blow it up rebuild, and I'm guessing because the guy.
I like that idea.
Well, right. So that way you're looking at that like you want to be the first one to send him that offer.
Yeah.
As soon as this league rolls over, as soon as that orphan gets replaced, put an offer in his inbox immediately. You can even start with like 103, 107, and 111 if you want to keep one of those and get another younger quarterback or something, right? Like you don't have to play it hard, but John Bosch would always say send your best offer.
He has the capital,
and I think 3 and 4 is your best offer. You send 3 and 4 for 1. I think that gets accepted. You get Bijan. And you still have other firsts for late round late first round receiver picks and flyers. So that's kind of an update to my trade. That one's better than the one I offered before. So
I saw the wheels spinning. I saw the wheels spinning, Andrew. But no,
I know. I was like, wait, hold on. Can we trade up? Because you're right, running back.
Yeah, that's right. That's my one. Because especially with like Javonte Williams, he might not be good until like November. So it's
and Dobbins obviously isn't 100%. Yeah.
So I mean,
I'd much rather them as an RB2. Yeah.
But John definitely will change. Change the trajectory for sure. And
so again, there you go, Nurk. Let us know how that goes.
What up, hot sauce?
Yeah, we see you, Dynasty Hot Sauce. Welcome to the chat, everybody.
Let's go.
If you're not watching us live and you're listening later, we appreciate you too. But definitely try to stop by live on Thursdays and hang out in the chat. We got some good people in here this week. But anyway, anything else you guys want to talk about on the Find Me a Trade? Or I think we covered it pretty well there. I think we did a good job.
Yeah, we hit it from all the angles. I mean, that's the point, right? That's what we want to do. Give you something to think about. But I mean, regardless, you can say we're all idiots and sit back and make every one of those picks and kick some ass for the next 3 years. So
actually, that is a good point to talk about. And I know we're going to talk about it next week. We've got Scott Connor coming on the podcast next week. And I know he's got an opinion on this, but I am almost always of the mindset of get the picks and then send the picks. Use them as cash. Trade them when you need to trade them. When you need to cash them in, cash them in. Yes. And I think there's a lot of times people get afflicted with this disease that we see in Dynasty called rookie fever. And people want to make the pick and they're willing to trade a good player for the chance at a good player. And it's like, think about that for a second. Are you sure? Like, give me the good player. Like, what are we doing here? So I know it's fun to make rookie picks. I have a bunch of drafts where I've traded every pick away As soon as we rolled over, I'm sending offers for my 2025 first. I'm like, get that off my roster. Let's move on. Like, because it's just fun. Like, let's go, right? But I don't like making the picks because then they are N'Keal Harry or Andy Isabella or Jalen Reagor.
But that's the problem. You know what it is? A lot of people, they started playing Dynasty like in 21.
Right, when all the picks were hits.
And their first pick was like Justin Jefferson, like Jamar Chase. And it's like I started playing, like
they're not traumatized.
My first rookie pick was Hakeem Butler. So, yeah, I'm a lot more willing to send off
I had
those.
so much Hakeem Butler.
What was mine?
But I also had so much AJ Brown. So it kind of,
I can't, like, it's like with everything, it's definitely a balance to it. It's just all about finding the good value for them.
For sure. Yep. No, I just wanted to make sure we comment on that because picks are kind of a tricky one. Some people love them, some people hate them, but just as long as you're getting value, that's all that really matters.
Well, and the main thing is that flexibility, right? Because now you can you can go any direction. So it's just picking the direction to go and making it happen. But with that, we've hit our time quota here for the evening. So definitely want to thank Andrew Metcalfe for coming on. Drew, tell them all where to find you again. Make sure to follow Drew on Twitter. Always putting out great content. Always has his flag plant players that I'm still 50-50 on. So I mean, as long as we get the right 50,
I was about 50-50 on hits too with him. So
all right, yeah, exactly.
Cam Akers came through for me in the playoffs, so I got that.
He did. That's right. It doesn't matter when they come through, just that they do. It's still still in the season.
I'm sure. Yeah, and he'll be a hot topic this off season.
Oh, no doubt.
But yeah, like I said, find me at DrewMet_FF. I'll be writing some stuff for Club Dynasty. I know they do a lot of good things throughout the year as well, so look out for them. And but yeah, just again, I had a good time. Definitely stayed up past my bedtime, but had some good talk. So
same. And Andrew too. He's on he's Eastern time.
Oh
so
yeah, you're
even
even
worse.
I would.
Yeah,
we do that.
That's why
we do that all the time
because.
Rocky and I are East Coasters, and I get no sleep on Thursdays. It's totally worth it. I'm glad to talk with you, Andrew. It was a good time tonight.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Well, for myself, at Scott_Sidlow on Twitter, Andrew Hall at Andrew Hall FF. Follow the pod at Dynasty Junkies. Don't forget to submit your FMATs. We've got we want to have some fun with these and try some different things. So even if you've submitted before, keep them coming. Whatever we can do kind of the most good with is what we're gonna do, or whatever's most interesting or however we can factor that in. So don't be afraid to submit them and we'll figure them out. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Great comments, great conversation. Just appreciate you guys being here. Don't be afraid to subscribe and follow and review. And again, if you guys do those reviews, we'll move you up the FMAT list, especially for when we get to those, all FMAT shows that we like to do here and there. So again, for Andrew Metcalfe, for Andrew Hall, I'm Scott Sidlow. Junkies out.
See ya.